Jared with Paladin Property Management here, and coming to you today to talk about a very important topic that I think a lot of times goes understated, and that's the importance of how we dress. And I'm sure you're sitting there looking at me like, man, you're kind of dressed like a scrub today. That's by design. So I want to talk about how we dress and when we dress it and what the importance of that is and why we are selective in our dress and appearance, and how it doesn't always mean dress as nice as possible, but it means to dress strategically. So the first thing that I want to discuss is whenever we interact with someone, our primary focus should be on the experience that they are having, right? We are crafting an experience for them. And so a lot of times we have to take ourselves out of our own shoes and put ourselves in their shoes to really try to attain our objective. So what does that look like? That means that I am typically going to be dressing a part. I can put on, different outfits, different clothes. I can be different people. I can represent myself different ways. So today, what I'm doing for most of the day is I'm going to help my guys, my employees, build a stairwell at one of our properties. I have some background in carpentry. I have my home improvement contractor's license. And really my goal is to go help them, oversee them, but I also want to be relatable. I want to work in a way that it's going to boost their morale, that they're going to feel like I'm just one of the team. I'm part of the team. I'm one of the guys. It doesn't matter that at the end of the day, I sign their paychecks. It doesn't matter at the end of the day that I probably, drive a nicer car and live in a nicer house. That may be true. That's not the experience I want to create. I know what it's like to be in their shoes. And I do, because the first few years that I did this, I did all the swinging of the hammer. I did the construction. I know more about what the project they're doing today probably than them, because I've done it. So I want that to be the experience they're having, is I'm here to help. I'm here to show them stuff. I'm here to share in their experience with them. And I'm here to be one of the guys, a man amongst men, and a leader that they can relate to and that they can trust, right? So that means that, I'm helping them, I'm working alongside them, I'm working hard, and I'm probably buying them lunch. That's how we're a leader. That's how we keep rapport with those who are answering to us. Now, later on this afternoon, I'm going to a board meeting for a new association that we just took over a couple months ago. These are very nice units. They're probably $400,000 units in a newer complex. And they've gone through the ringer with their previous property management and kind of what they've endured over the last few years. There's some suspicions of theft and mismanagement and all that stuff, as there usually is when complexes change management companies and come hire us. So I want to project an air of not just authority, but competence, right? The board of directors has already made their decision to hire me. So I want to make the board look good, right? I want people to say, this guy seems respectable, he seems trustworthy, he seems competent, seems like he knows what he's talking about. And, as a result, or what that means is that the board has good discretion, they're keen, they're making good decisions on behalf of the community because they hired a new manager that seems competent and that seems like is going to do well. By gaining the trust of these unit owners in their first time meeting me, I'm also, by in turn, making the board look good, right? It's not just about me and what they think about me. How does this affect their perception of the board? Does this make them trust the board more or less now that they know that the board's hired me? So I'm going to switch up my wardrobe before that meeting, right? So I've got, building the stairwell, then I'm meeting with a contractor at that property. And then just before that annual meeting, I'm going to change into what you see over there on that chair. So, just some dark slacks, button down, belt. I've got some, leather shoes in the car. Just something that is going to fit the part and their expectations of what a responsible property manager should look like. How should they be dressed? Might even shave. So I'll grab a disposable razor and shave maybe in the bathroom at the facility we're going to. Change up my appearance for the situation and the occasion. I'm not trying to be relatable. I'm not trying to sell them on anything. They're not making the decision to hire me or not hire me. All my goal is to make them feel secure in the decision that was already made. I want to reinforce that and make everybody feel confident in their decision to hire me and hire us to manage their $30 million worth of real estate plus their $500,000 of funds in the accounts and all their HOA dues that are coming in their annual budget of $400,000 a year. You know, that's a lot of responsibility. That's a lot of trust. We want them to feel secure in that trust. Now, the trick is neither underdressing nor overdressing for a specific part, right? So other times that I've talked to you guys, I would say it's great to be underestimated by your enemies, right? That's why I dress like this a lot. A lot of times when I'm out at property, I'm dressed casually. As you can see, my pants have paint and caulk stains on them. You know, my shirt is just a kind of scrubby, very loose fitting shirt, kind of raggedy looking. And that's exactly how I want to look when I'm at site many times. I want to look like a worker. I want to look like an employee. I want to look like just some guy. If I look like a manager, or if I look like the guy who's in charge, or if I look like the guy who has authority, then everybody's going to be on their best behavior. So I won't be able to see as much if there's stuff going on that's not right and that I want to know about. They're going to see me and they're going to be like, oh, this guy seems like he's in charge. Let me not do this right in front of him. If I look like just another worker, then people are less defensive. They're like, this guy doesn't matter, and they behave more according to their true colors. Additionally, if I go into a property and I have that air of authority and I look like the guy who's able to make things happen, then people inevitably stop me and they inevitably ask me to do stuff for them. And a lot of times I'm there on a different project and I don't have time to do that. And so it's kind of a protection for me because I can go be invisible. I can get my work done. I can be unnoticed. You know, nobody's really stopping me to ask me questions or have me do stuff. They don't think I'm anybody, right? They don't think I'm the property manager. They certainly don't think I own the company. So just let me go unbothered, right? So it's a very strategic thing when I put this outfit on to go out to work for the day. Now, we are going to dress differently depending on what that situation is. So for annual meetings, like we talked about earlier, we want to be dressed nice. We want to be presentable, respectable, but not overdressed. Like we're not going to go to an annual meeting or a board meeting in a full suit and tie or a three-piece with a vest, right? We don't want to be so overdressed or so dressed so much better than everybody else that we make them uncomfortable, that we make them feel underdressed. When things are too different or too out of line, people's defenses go up. They're more leery, they're more cautious. They're like, something's not right about this situation. And then they kind of pay attention to it more. We want them to feel comfortable. Remember, we are crafting the experience that they are having, right? So we want them to feel trust. They want them to feel he's respectable, presentable, but we don't want them to feel like, why is he dressed so over the top? Why does he have a suit on? Am I underdressed? Did I not get the memo? And now like they're self-conscious. They're just trying to figure that out, and it's distracting them from your message or what you're saying or what you're trying to accomplish, right? Even more important is when we're selling or we're meeting with contractors. A lot of times contractors, when we meet with them, they're interviewing us just like we are interviewing them. As someone who has lived in the construction and contracting world, we don't want every client. Contractors are kind of in demand right now. We don't want picky or annoying or clients that are just going to be problematic and troublesome for us, right? So when we're meeting with a contractor, we want to take that into consideration. We don't want to be not very relatable. We want them to want to do business with us. We want them to like us. We want them to give us the best deal possible. And so whether that's a contractor we're meeting with, whether that's the board of directors, whether that's a new client or whatever the case is, our goal in a sales situation or where we are trying to win the business of another person is to be likable and relatable. We want them to look at us and see a reflection of themselves or see a piece of themselves in us. That's what it means to be likable and relatable, and people are going to like and relate to people who remind them of themselves. In my area, most of the clients, most of the boards that I'm meeting with are either lower to upper middle class, right? We don't have any super high-end clients where you're talking multi-million-dollar properties or condos, and we don't have like too many complexes that are just in poverty. So when we're looking to middle class clients, generally speaking, we want to dress nice casual. So usually I wear a t-shirt, long sleeve or short sleeve with our logo on it, with our company name on it, or at the very least a logo. Sometimes the name itself might look tacky, so at least just the logo on it. It's very simple, it's understated. Some slacks like that, or some dark colored jeans, and maybe some cheap shoes like H&M leather shoes or fake leather shoes, or an understated sneaker like Noble CrossFit sneakers is usually what I wear, or something that just isn't very flashy. We don't want anything to draw too much attention to us. We just want it to kind of all blend in with the rest of our personality, the rest of the experience that they're having. We want everything to kind of be congruent with what their expectations are from us. There's this idea in psychology of cognitive dissonance. It can be a benefit or it can be a negative depending on the situation, but we don't want them to experience cognitive dissonance in a sales situation where there's a huge difference from their expectations or what they're feeling to what they're seeing. And usually when I meet with the board, I'm predicting based on their demographic factors, their socioeconomic factors, how are they gonna show up dressed? What are these type of people doing in their daily life? How are they dressing? And then I'm going to match that, right? So understand the nuances of how hierarchies work in social interactions. I dressed similar to this yesterday, and we had to meet with a client up in Massachusetts, in Chicopee, Massachusetts, which is not a super desirable place to live. My guys had already been up there to help them with another job because they were desperate. I knew it was a rough complex. It was a rough location. It's a different management company. They're in apartment complex management. They were hiring us out for some construction work. And so when my guys were up there, they were like, this was definitely like a crack house. There was roaches. There was a lot of just really nasty conditions there. And so they have a bunch more work that their guys don't want to do in-house that my guys are willing to do. And, they don't have any contractors in that area that they like and trust that they want to work with. So it's potentially a sizable amount of work and sizable amount of revenue for us. So I'm going up to meet with them. And the guy who I'm meeting with is their superintendent. It's the guy who's in charge of the maintenance and construction for that complex. They've got, 300 units or whatever it is. I, understanding that, want to be relatable to him. Again, right? I want, we're talking about in sales. So when I go up there, I'm dressed like this. When the interaction happens, he treats me like I'm one of the guys already. He talks to me, he's disclosing information about where their price points are at, what their expectations are. He's kind of letting me look under the hood, so to speak, because he likes me. Right? And I'm not talking too much about myself. I'm not trying to sell myself to him. I am letting him talk. Blue collar workers, they feel underappreciated. They work really hard. They don't feel like they get paid enough. They don't feel like they get appreciated enough, right? So it's really nice and refreshing to those types of people when we ask them about themselves. And, I just sat there and listened. And the guy talked about himself for like 45 minutes after the deal. After the deal was done and prices were negotiated and he introduced me to his boss and whatever, I just let him talk. And why did I do that? Because I'm prioritizing the relationship. Because I know I'm probably not going to do a ton of business with the boss. I'm going to send the boss the invoices, but the boss is depending on him to steer the decision of what contractor they're going to use, whether they're doing a good job and whether the price is fair. The last job we did, my guys did the job. He went in and looked at the job, and he was the one who signed off on it and said, yeah, they did a good job. I know because his boss is depending on him that I want to empower him. I want to make him like me. I'm not trying to win the boss's approval. Yeah, the boss has more authority, but the boss is delegating that authority to him. And he knew that I was relatively new to the game, but he liked me. And so he was willing to help me out. And he kind of let me look under the hood, right? He said, hey, I need you to put a bid in. This is kind of what the previous guys were at. Most other contractors, he's just having them come in and put their bid and there's no help. Give me your bid. You're a professional, like what you got. But for me, it was a little different because I was building this relationship. We managed a couple properties right next door. And so I could just come in and check in with him. And as a result of building that relationship, he would say, hey, listen, this is kind of what we've been paying. This is what we're thinking. This is where they didn't do good. This is where I think it needs to be done better. Do you have a solution for this particular problem? And it really gave me an advantage to put in the most competitive bid because I knew what their pain points were. I knew what their price point was, and I knew what they were trying to accomplish. And I knew all this because I developed that relationship. Business is built on those types of things, right? It's not always cutthroat. It's not always, how much can I extract from this person for the lowest price, or how much can I extract from this person financially and do the least amount of work. So, if the person in front of us is a salesperson or a project manager or a property manager or whatever, we want to give them the proper and due respect because we are going to have more influence with them and we're going to be able to navigate and craft their experience much more easily than we will with someone whose face we never see. When do you want to dress up? When do you want to dress up to the nines? And ultimately that comes down to when you're going to court. Courts, hearings, any situation, funerals, weddings, stuff like that. Any situation where if you show up underdressed, you will stick out and or you will be perceived as disrespectful or dishonoring the institution, that your counterpart represents, right? We dress up to court to show respect for the court. We are looking to seek their favor. We want a favorable judgment. We want them to like us. We don't want to give them any reason to give us an adverse reaction or an adverse judgment. And so we do that by showing them the utmost respect. By doing that better than whoever else we're fighting against or whoever else is on the other side of the table than us, again, we're crafting the experience where the person in the position of authority is looking at us like this person deserves my grace and my judgment. And so, if everybody else is dressed up or it's an occasion or a place where it's customary to have a suit and tie, then we wear a suit and tie. We're not the person showing up to court in, casual clothes or even slightly underdressed. Like, those slacks and a button down and some H&M shoes, not good enough to go to court with. Facial hair depends on the audience. Sometimes there's a lot of studies that show that people that are clean shaven are more trustworthy. At least that's the experience, that's the impression given. That's how people perceive them to be. Again, we are crafting the other person's experience. If it's an audience where we think that it doesn't really matter too much, if they're a younger audience, typically younger audiences, we can have a little bit of scruff or a beard or whatever, then that's fine. Really, tailor our appearance to, whatever our objective is in that situation. And the last thing I want to mention about this is it does not mean that we need a bunch of clothes. Don't go and buy a gazillion different wardrobes. I read this book called Project 333. It's on minimalism, minimalist wardrobe. My wardrobe has 30 to 40 items total, including shoes, belts, ties, shirts. I have, an outfit or a couple outfits for a given occasion. Got a few logoed shirts. I've got a few multi-purpose slacks. I've got a suit, one sports jacket, some work clothes. It does not mean that you need a huge wardrobe. It just means that you have a look for these different situations and different occasions, and you can go and put on that look when you need to accomplish a certain task. So be all things to all people. Have the nice stuff, have the scrubby stuff, have the work clothes, have the suit. You need it all at different times. Now you know.